Folks that watch us, many of the times when we meet them, they say, you know, you're doing things that we hope we can do one day. What makes you want to wake up in the middle of the morning on the side of a mountain like this? What drives you to do that?
I don't know. I just like being outside. I like seeing different places. I like hearing the birds sing. It just makes my heart happy.
Well, hello fellow trekkers, we're Owen, Lynn, and Maggie. In today's video, while we're out on a dirt road, we're going to answer all your questions that you have about what it's like to be on a dirt road. Thanks for being with us.
When she calls, I always seem to lose my cool. Baby, I'm just a mouse to your plane. And don't you know that loving you is a train wreck waiting to happen? Don't you know that loving you is a train wreck waiting to happen? Yes, it is, baby.
We're in the Pisgah National Forest in the mountains of North Carolina. It is almost July. We have on coats. We stopped for lunch on this road that we're traveling on, and we thought we would take a few minutes to kind of level set everyone after our last dirt road adventure in West Virginia.
We had a lot of questions, and we learned a lot, and we wanted to share that with you.
Dirt roads are different. So the first one was our solo stove. And the very first question was, you guys are using that a lot. Do you really like it?
Yeah. I think we used it every single night on that trip.
And we used it for warmth because it was cool. It got down into the 50s every night. It's 58 here today, so you can bet we're going to build a fire whenever we finally find our campsite we're going to stay at tonight. So, first question, where do you store it in the van? Do you even have room for it in your van? We had to change the way we actually store things in the van to make room for it, didn't we?
We did.
We bought these ottomans from Amazon, and we have two of the big ones, and we bought a smaller one as well so we can make an L shape. And when we changed it into this lounge system we're using now, we put one of the smaller ones in, and that gave us enough room to put the solo stove in.
Yeah, and it fits perfect back there.
The next question is, does the solo stove help with mosquitoes?
I think it did.
It does.
Right.
You can put more wood in than they really want you to, and it actually will create smoke. And if we have trouble with mosquitoes, we'll actually put a little green wood in there as well, and that'll create more smoke. Seems to work, and it does seem to help with mosquitoes and bugs.
Yeah.
The last question about the solo stove is, does it take a long time for it to cool down so you can store? Well, yeah, kind of it does. But what we normally do is we stay outside until all the fire has burned off.
All the wood's burned off.
Yeah, all the wood. And then we have just embers in there, and it burns wood so quickly that usually we'll go inside and watch a little entertainment on our iPad, and I'll go back outside and check on it, and it's dead and warm to the touch by that point. So I could put the embers into a fire pit like this if I wanted to then. We usually get it out of the way and let it cool overnight, put the cover on it the next morning, and then we're off to go.
And we really like having the cover because we are storing it in the van. The next group of questions pertain to safety and what we do to try to keep ourselves safe. And the first question is about a satellite communication, because in a lot of the places that we were in West Virginia, or most everywhere we were in West Virginia, we had no cell signal. So we felt like it was important that we be able to contact someone if we were to have any kind of issues. So Owen did a lot of research, and I'm going to let him tell you what we ended up with.
Yeah, so the number one option probably that you would see out there would be the Garmin InReach or InReach Mini. And we did look at that, but we had a lot of, I don't know, not worries about it, but the plan that you have to sign up for to use that is somewhat limited, and it becomes pretty expensive. So another option that we found was this, the Zoleo, and it uses the exact same satellites as the Garmin InReach, but if we need to, we can send a message to someone and it'll use a satellite. We kind of felt like getting in touch with family and knowing if there's an emergency, having this lets them contact that number. And that's a really cool
So they
thing.
can contact us and we can contact them.
Right. They can't call us, but we can text back
Right.
and forth. The other thing that it allows us to do is when we get to a site like tonight, which we probably will not have cell phone coverage, I can simply press one little button on here and it will reach out to our daughter and son-in-law and let them know that we've arrived at a campsite, that we're safe, and it'll send them the geolocation of where we are.
Awesome.
All right, so the next question is, are you afraid of being alone and do you carry any kind of protection? Well, no, we're never really, I don't think we ever feel afraid.
We haven't so far. So,
We carry three things that we keep with us. One is this SA knife, and I always think about the Crocodile Dundee, that there's a knife. And you know, that's not for people, it's more or less just in case we need protection from something, and I don't really know what that something would be because I'm not very good at using a knife or throwing it, so we have this. The other thing we have with us at all times is a hatchet that's extremely strong that I have carved down. It's very, very good to use out here. And when we go hiking, we carry bear spray. And bear spray is a really good deterrent both of bears and other animals and people.
Right.
So we have that. Those are the things we do to keep ourselves protected when we're out here.
But a lot of times you just go with your gut and what your gut feels, and if it doesn't feel safe for whatever reason, you just move on. And a lot of things, one of the things that we always do is we always turn our seats around at night when we go to bed to make sure that if we do need to get up in the middle of the night, we can book it out of there. So,
to be truthful, in bigger cities, we felt much more unsafe in those situations than we have out here in the middle of nowhere.
Next group of questions.
Strong coffee. Man, wow.
We're gonna have to do something about that.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get another coffee making device. Ours is starting to give up the ghost.
So that's a question for you guys. Well, how do you make coffee in your van? So we are looking for an alternative to how we make coffee.
And many ask, could we have made this trip, the 3 legs that we did in West Virginia, could we have done that in the Travado or the ProMaster? So what do you think? It depends, doesn't it?
It depends. I would have been very stressed out. There was only a few places that I think that we would have had issues with it. I think the clearance would be the main thing.
It would be.
And I think the places that we pulled off to camp would probably have made me more nervous also in the
So that's the thing. There's a comfort level with the Revel that you get that we didn't have with the Travado because of clearance. There are places we want to go sometimes that, especially when we were in Alaska, we would say no, or we would park further away from like one of the rivers or something because we were afraid that if we got out there and we hit soft sand, we couldn't get back with just 2-wheel drive. So, it depends on how comfortable you are getting stuck. We never got stuck in the Travado, so really, to be honest, we probably should have just kept rolling until we got stuck, and then.
I don't want to get stuck.
But see.
But I think a lot of people have commented that going on dirt roads like this, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared to get out of a situation if you can. So we do have tools to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have safety straps, we have a tow strap, we have what's known as a kinetic rope that we can connect to it. What we don't have yet that we still haven't convinced ourselves to purchase is a winch on the front of the van, and maybe one of these days soon we'll get that.
We have max tracks. So.
We have a shovel to dig out, and we have satellite communications to ask for a tow if we need that.
Right.
So,
So.
you know, if you have all those things and you're in two-wheel drive, you're more likely to not get stuck.
Yeah. Because you never know. You don't know what the road's going to be like a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you don't know what kind of situation you're going to get into.
Yeah, you don't. That's the thing. You don't know what's around the next corner.
Yeah.
And
So you
don't
need to be
know
prepared.
if you're going to be able to turn around. And it's difficult to back these things up. And so it comes down to personal choice. We feel more safe with the four-wheel drive. So hopefully that answers that. If you have other specific questions about whether we think that you guys can make it to some of these places we're going, then just ask. We'll be glad to answer those questions just like we are right now. The advantage of pushing yourself beyond your comfort level is that you get to be out in the middle of the woods in a mountain where it's 80 degrees anywhere else and it's in the 50s and we're by ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the advantage. So how much are you willing to be uncomfortable to get to that? We kind of know for us, and you'll just have to judge for yourself.
Yeah.
So if someone just in the parking lot said, at the end of this road, said, could I take a travado to the place we're going today?
Well, we
Your
haven't
answer-
gotten there yet, so
You're
far.
right, so far. You're right.
So far, we would say, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I think that's the trick, isn't it? So far, you never know.
You never know.
So the final group of questions that we're going to answer right now have to do with the equipment we take with us. It's a really obvious question because folks see us out here in the woods and they haven't seen us here before.
Right.
And they say, what do you need to take in order to do that? In other words, what would I need to pack in my Revel or in my Travado to feel comfortable doing what you're doing out in the woods and being self-sufficient? So we've shown you a few of those things. I think you need a really good quality camp knife. We have the ESSE, and it's an 8-inch blade, I believe, and it's extremely sharp, and it has a sheath that I can take with us when we go hiking. We have bear spray. We have a really good axe, and the only other thing we have that we don't have here is we have a campfire wood folding saw that we use. I think you've seen us using a battery-operated reciprocating saw,
Yeah.
a Sawzall.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
We
Lasted
took
one
that back. To be honest, it was just so shaky that the campfire saw works better. So those are the things that we have here that you've seen. You asked us about our Pico chairs. Why don't you tell, what are your thoughts about our Pico folding chairs?
We love the Pico chairs. They're very good back support. They fold up really, really small. They have little bags you can put them in. You can put them over your shoulder and carry them anywhere. And they pack really good in the vans.
One of the other questions about equipment is, did you guys swap out your tires, and why did you do that? Well, that's a really good question, and yes, we did. The BFG Goodrich KO2s that we had on there, they just could not get them to true up when they tried to balance them, remember? And so we contacted our dealer, and they said, pick out another set of tires and we'll reimburse you for that because you've got to be able to balance it. You don't need to be bouncing down the road. So on our previous van, we had these Michelin Agilis cross climates that we had on that van, and it made it very, very quiet and comfortable. And they were semi-aggressive and worked really well, and that's what we have on it right now. I think our thoughts were that we were going to need to ride on a bunch of interstate to get to dirt roads, and we would err on getting something that's more comfortable on the road than on dirt roads.
And now we're finding there's a lot of dirt roads that we want to explore on the East Coast, so we might change our minds on the tires the next time we have to replace them. We also had the question, if we were boondocking for 3 days, how the batteries hold up in the Revel.
Out in the woods like this.
Out in the woods like this. So,
not so good.
Well, it's kind of depends. It's another depends.
It is.
So, because if you're in the woods, you're not going to get solar, so you're not going to replenish your batteries as fast. we didn't stay in one place, so we drove every day and opted to try to find another great place to stay. So, but I think, I think it would last a couple of days, but you definitely, or it might last 3 days, but you definitely have to watch your power.
So the final group of questions we received from you guys was, how do you plan a trip like this? It's easy to figure out that you can use RV Parky or something else to plan a trip from campground to campground, but when you start ducking off into the woods like this, the tool set becomes different. And you saw Lynn sitting with an iPad in her lap for the first time with Guide GPS up, trying to figure out where do we go and how do we get to the next spot. So we thought we'd take a few minutes and talk to you about our process. So we'll use this trip as our guide. So one of the things we want to do is we don't want to just to travel. We want to go see something, right? We want to go someplace that makes both of us smile and something.
So that could be, hiking, a lake somewhere where we can go on the kayak, just a destination, a town or something.
It's just something that makes you smile. And then the next thing we do is we Google that hike, like today's hike, and try to figure out how difficult is it, and can two people in their 60s actually accomplish that, and is that the place we want to head to? And then once we figure out, okay, that's it, then we bring out the big guns. And first thing we do is we look on Guide GPS. It's a website and an app that allows you to download maps for use when you don't have cell phone coverage that shows a lot of different layers. And to be quite honest, it's kind of difficult.
Well, it's just a new process for us, so we're kind of still learning how to use that tool. And I'm sure hopefully we'll get better at it.
You can't just use Google, though, to do this, because you need to know if the road you're going to travel on, if it's actually legal for you to have a vehicle on that road. And the motor usage vehicle overlay in Guide will tell you that. Another tool we use is an app called OnX Off-Road. And it's a relatively new app that's out there that has a lot of crowdsourced trails. So if once you go on a trail, you can mark it and it shows up for other people. And that's awesome, because not only are there ratings for how difficult is this and what's the ground clearance, but people actually stop and take pictures of, okay, this is a crossing you're going to have to make on a stream, or this is the biggest gully you're going to go through, and then you can make a decision of, do I want to go there or not?
And then a big thing that we use for finding spots to spend the night is iOverlander.
Yeah.
And that's been, really, really good and very helpful for us.
One of the things that's happened in the last couple of weeks with the recent release of iOS, Guide GPS just released their version that allows it to be up on the screen on Apple CarPlay. And the Mercedes Sprinter chassis has Apple CarPlay. And so for the first time, we're able to pull up Guide GPS while we're rolling down the road and not have to have an iPad in our lap. And we can see, here comes a turn, and this is a point that we marked on the map that looked like it might be a really good place to stop for lunch or to spend the night. That's going to be a really nice feature. So that's kind of how we do it. And we're getting better at it. But to be quite honest, I think many of you looked at us as experts at getting out and finding great places to stay in state parks and national parks. But we're about as newbie as it gets, aren't we?
But we're learning. And it's, it's a fun thing about it too, is that, learning about the new tools and stuff is an adventure within itself.
It is. A lot of people like to go to RV resorts and do glamping, and why in the world are we the kind of people that want to come out to a fire pit like this and be out in the middle of nowhere? And
the first thing that we learned is that we love it. So we didn't really want to spend a lot of money on some of the things that we thought we needed until we found it out that if we were actually going to do this.
So why did we think we would love it in the first place? What trip did we go on over the last 2 years that told us that we wanted to be more out in nature like this instead of at RV resorts?
I guess Alaska. So we loved Alaska. So
Okay, so in West Virginia, you determined that we both did that we love it.
Right.
So what did we figure out that we needed to spend money on?
Well, the satellite radio for sure.
Yes.
We wanted to make sure we did that. We covered that already. We also wanted to make sure that we had extra fuel. So we did buy a roto pack, put it on the ladder.
Yep.
and-
Filled it up with diesel, and
Right.
it's only 2 gallons. But if you run out, 2 gallons will get you another 30 miles or so if it had to. So.
But we did find out in West Virginia there was no cell signal, so you couldn't find a gas station. And then a lot of the gas stations didn't carry diesel.
Right. Folks that watch us, many of the times when we meet them, they say, you know, you're doing things that we hope we can do one day. What makes you want to wake up in the middle of the morning on the side of a mountain like this? What drives you to do that?
I don't know. I just like being outside. I like seeing different places. I like hearing the birds sing. It just makes my heart happy. I mean,
It's really camping as opposed to RVing. It's not an RV lifestyle. It is really a camping lifestyle.
but it's not in a tent either. So I mean, you
Right.
know, a lot of people
There's a lot
go
of
out-
comfort.
Yeah, there's a lot of comfort to it too. So it's not really hardcore camping either. So it's somewhere in between RVing and actually tent camping or wilderness camping. But
Makes-
it's not for everyone.
It's not.
It's not for everyone. So.
I think that's it for today's video. We're going to call it here and say thanks for watching.
And we hope by sharing the questions and the answers to them will help you if you decide to do something like this.
So many of you watch us and leave comments and questions, and you're genuinely concerned that, wow, what would you do if a bear came up? And we love you guys and we don't want you to not be safe. Those kind of things just make you smile.
And
that
the
community-
suggestions. I love the suggestions
Yeah.
on, you know, different places to go and
Different things to do in the van.
different things to do in the van. And we have a list of all the places that everybody's recommended. And when we go back to that area, we'll pull up that list and make sure that we check those things out. And we really appreciate that.
And speaking of suggestions, next week we're going to show you a place that many of you suggested last time when we were up on top of a mountain. We're going to take you on a hike and another dirt road adventure that's going to stretch us and our van again. And until then, happy trails. Thanks for being here.